Check, please.
Welcome back to Everything Money. Carl Icahn came out in an article and said he sees a very, very, very bad future ahead of us. We cannot engineer a soft landing when coming out of this craziness. Inflation, he sees a terrible recession, or even worse, he says. It's a little scary for normal people, but I come to you to fondle my thumbs up. And give me your thoughts on Carl Icahn and what he's saying about moving forward. I'm scared, baby. You know this.
Are you scared? Or are you being dramatic?
No.
So Carl Icahn's a smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's an activist investor. So he tends to focus on companies that he can take positions on boards and make changes to unleash value. You know, he's not like a Warren Buffett guy. He's not like Charlie Munger. He's not like Howard Marks. He's in there to unleash some value. Now, it doesn't mean that he doesn't believe in buying. Like I think he bought Netflix really early. Now, is he being a Debbie Downer? I don't know. Listen, when he says there can't be a soft landing, usually with a soft landing, you're going to, decrease rates a little bit, kind of make things kind of like coast in. But right now, if we decreased rates, it'll probably hurt inflation, cause inflation to go higher even more. We're at almost 8% inflation now. I am worried about stagflation, where we have no growth and high inflation. That was something we saw in the 70s. But remember, the 80s were rip-roaring and 90s were incredible times. I like Carl Icahn. I don't really invest his way at all. But doesn't mean I don't like the guy. Doesn't mean I don't, respect him. In general, whenever people come up with dramatic things about the economy, I tend to not listen very much.
I started to learn what all this means. And I say this all the time if you're watching at home. If you don't have an operated business, it's hard to grasp some of these metrics. But I send over a PO for an order, and they send it right back and say, oh, by the way, it's 25% more. Go ahead and write us more of a check. And I'm like, wow, well, that
So what are you going to do to your price of your cans?
Exactly. Even my wife is like, so when are we raising them? Yeah, so we're passing.
I never thought your wife would be as greedy as you.
Yeah.
Never thought that would ever happen. For those of you out there who are watching, I'm being facetious.
Mm-hmm.
Seth comes from the more progressive side of the aisle. And I say progressive in quotes because it's really regressive, but they do a good job of marketing. Listen, costs are going to go up. I was wrong 15 years ago, and I thought all that money printing was going to cause inflation. The reason being, it didn't go in people's pockets. It went to the bank's pockets to make their balance sheets better. But recently, we just started writing checks to people. Well, all of a sudden, before you know it, I remember a year ago, we looked for people to work for us a year and a half ago for $12 an hour, and now you're starting at 15 all day. I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me in the least bit. Why? Because it's just part of cycles. We had low inflation for a long time, and now we're going to have higher inflation, and people are going to make a lot more money. But if you think that you making more money is not going to lead to higher costs, you're out of your mind. And that could be recessionary in some fashion, because think about it this way. If you're a small business owner like Seth and you have 4 or 5 employees, and all of a sudden your cost for employees goes up 30%, you might go, hey guys, I have 5 employees. We're cutting 2 of you guys. And the other 3, you're just lucky to have a job. We're going to pay you a little bit more, but you got to pick the slack up for the other 2. And they're going to be happy to even have a job because they didn't lose their job. So all of a sudden you got 2 people out of 5 that are out of work. Now, does that mean we're going to 40% unemployment? No. Not every business does poorly. We never lay off people during bad times unless a specific business has no long-term way of getting out of it, which has never happened so far because we're small. We only do 20 million in revenue. We can grow still. This recession that we're bound to have a recession apart from this COVID one we had for, quarter or whatever it was, 2 quarters. And when it happens, it'll probably be driven a lot by costs. Why? Because, all of a sudden costs for labor go up, and all of a sudden you lay people off, and there's a trickle-down effect. All of a sudden, less people are working, and they're buying less stuff. All of a sudden, GDP goes down, blah, 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 blah. It just happens that way. Is that for sure? No. Should have happened many times. Guys, besides COVID, it's been 14 years before we had a recession. I don't even consider COVID a recession. It was just it was a self-induced.
It was a blip.
It was a self-induced blip, a really big blip, but it was self-induced. I mean, we sat there and said, hey, we're going to shut down.
Yeah.
We're going to shut down on purpose. We care about the average person, so we're going to shut down and make sure they lose their jobs. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it besides, is Carl Icahn right? Maybe he is. Maybe it's going to be really, really bad. I just believe in the pendulum swinging to both sides. and we had a big pendulum to one side, and we had pendulum of no inflation for how long? We had 2% inflation for freaking 15, 20 years. It was bound to swing the other way. Don't get upset about it.
Don't be upset if it swings hard the other way.
Yeah.
Because it swung hard in the way that you wanted it to go.
Well, it seems like people do end up inevitably get upset.
Oh, people are pissed now about gas prices, right?
Yeah. And so the viewer at home, Paul, that has a 9 to 5, they're probably working too hard. Definitely
save your money.
Working paycheck to paycheck.
You shouldn't listen. If you're working paycheck to paycheck, you're begging for a problem. You're absolutely begging for a problem. Just like everything in life, you have to have a margin of safety. Warren Buffett has the best example. When a bridge builder builds a bridge, that's tough to say.
Mm-hmm.
And they want 10,000 pounds to go across it. They build it like it's going to have 20,000 pounds going across it. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you are building a bridge to hold 10,000 pounds. The second a bird lands on the bridge at the same time your 10,000 pounds is going across, the thing falls apart. Don't do that. That's why you save your money. Emergency fund, I don't believe in them, but have an emergency fund, it makes you sleep better at night. Still max out your 401k. When I say max out, don't max out your employee match. You can put up to $20,000, whatever the number is, every year in it. I always hear people say, like, "Oh, my employer pays me, matches up to 7% of my income, and I make $50,000 a year. So, like, I'm going to put $3,500 in." I'm like, but you can put $20,000 in if you want. Now, granted, if you get $50,000 a year, it's probably hard to put $20,000 in. I get that, but you can always borrow against your 401k when times are tough. You can always borrow from family. You can always have a credit card as your emergency fund, because guess what? 401k is untouchable by creditors. So if you have to max out your credit cards in order to live and you have to declare bankruptcy, they can't touch your 401k. I'm not suggesting you go purposely take on lots of debt. I'm saying as a worst case scenario, you should still start by saving more money. And if it makes you sleep better at night to have an emergency fund, do so. But financially, it's not the right move. But these are just things, guys, everything's in cycles. Guess what? The Great Depression caused incomes to drop in half in 1928. And the 60, 70, 80 years since then, the U.S. economy has grown by leaps and bounds. I think the average person before the recession in the U.S. was making $900 per year. They now make $63,000 per year.
I can feel the thought process of the viewers out there. It's palpable, as we would say in a good a Big Short. You know what I mean? It's palpable. But for again, Paul, I have a tough job. I'm hardly supporting my family. I'm trying to invest, but it is hard for a wealthy guy to tell me to save more of my money. And then I do reflect on myself and realize I'm worried about a recession. I have 8 paid streaming services. I have brand new cell phones and iPads all over my house. But when you tell me to save money, I'm like, how dare you tell me to save my money?
We all have luxuries we can cut out. You know what's funny? Today, Darnell called me. He calls me. I was in the middle of ordering food for breakfast. And I just told him last night, every morning I have the exact same breakfast, a McDonald's hash brown. That's it. Because I don't need a breakfast. I'm not hungry. I just get it to get something in me and time over to lunch. And he jokingly said, he's like, this is why you're a beast, because you're just programmatic and you just follow your system. So you might be able to say like, well, Paul's right. Yes, I am wealthy and you should. Great. If that's your excuse, guess what? I know plenty of people who don't make 1/10 what I make who have millions in the bank. They don't even make 1/20 what I make. I know somebody him and his wife make $180,000 a year combined. A lot of money, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not some obscene. They both work and make $180 combined. They save 64% of their income. Now, are they buying $10,000 magic? I'm not picking on you about that one.
$17,000 magic cards.
Whatever. Mm-hmm. The whole point is we have to all make sacrifices. Even during tough times for me, I got to make sacrifices, right? And I have money. Yeah. Everything in life is about sacrifice. In the world of entitlement, we all want to have our cake and eat it too. Well, the economy's bad, but I still want to be able to go out to eat. Why? Just make a sacrifice for a while. But I want to be able to enjoy life. Great. Save so you can enjoy life later. Don't just have the stress of, for those of you out there who live paycheck to paycheck, how stressful is it?
It's bad.
Don't do it anymore. Just say, I'm going to save. You won't even notice the money when you put it in your 401k.
Well, you're implying it's always a choice. And I think
it is always a choice.
The argument might not be this is all the money I can make.
Great. Do me a favor. Whoever is willing to come and open their books to me and show me every single one of their expenditures and say I can't save a single dollar, I'd love it.
Yeah, because when you do that exercise with me, it's very embarrassing.
No, but here's the thing, though. Seth always thinks I'm picking on him. I'm not picking on him.
I don't think that at all.
Okay, good.
We've run through these exercises.
And guess what? I waste money frivolously, too.
I've said these same words, Paul. I can't this, and I don't want to do that. And then you sit down and open up my books. It's like, wow, there's a lot of room. But, listen, we're privileged. Well,
it's like when Michael Scott had to
declare
bankruptcy.
What was that?
like a
I
mega-
declare bankruptcy.
When he bought the core blaster, he's like, the Marine Corps actually uses this.
I don't remember that. Guys, recessions are going to happen. And they're sometimes the best thing that can happen to a country.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a person.
Recessions are healthy if
Recessions
done
are
the right
healthy.
way.
Well,
Just this is a little extreme.
no, all depends on how you look at them. I think they're all healthy.
Recessions are part of the cycle.
You know me. I don't like it when people want higher wages to get higher. I hate the minimum wage, right? Mm-hmm. But have I complained once that prices are higher?
No, you've actually kind of cheered it.
I'm just like, okay, great. Prices are higher. Now, what I will get mad about is when somebody says to me, I want more because I want to live a better lifestyle. Wait, why are prices high? Why are all prices higher when incomes went up a ton? Well, that's what happens.
I didn't believe it until I finally saw it.
I was like, that's what happens.
I didn't see it. We started paying everyone, giving for free money, and now everything costs a lot more, and everyone's complaining.
I'm okay with it. I can afford to be okay with it. And the people who can't afford to be okay with it are probably the people who are rooting for it in the first place. Again, you can't have your cake and eat it too. A recession will be a way of getting all that, making things a lot more even in that regard.
Brings everything back to...
Until we write more checks for people in recessions. And by the way, I do believe in writing checks to people during recessions. Mm-hmm. I'm going to re-put this out there. I had what's called a one tax plan. It's actually borrowed from like the Cato Institute, where I had a flat tax and a guaranteed check to every single person in this country over the age of 18 every year, even if you didn't want to work.
Mm-hmm.
But the key, and it had a surplus and more money for you during recessions. Because remember, we have the whole point of Keynesian economics is that when there are good times, you have surpluses to save up for the bad times. So then you can go stimulate the economy by writing checks. But what we have is just writing checks all the time, writing deficits all the time. And I'm getting too much into the political process, but I look at it saying you can't burn both ends of the candle. You got to stop somewhere and say, wait a second, we can't run. When people tell me we can run deficits forever, then why charge taxes? That makes no sense. Then why charge taxes? Just don't ever charge taxes and run deficits forever. But it does matter. At some point, you can have too much debt. At some point, it's going to happen. By the way, I also want to remind people, the U.S. government wants inflation. They're not going to tell you they want inflation, but they do want inflation. Why? Because when you take massive amounts of debt out, the only way to really get out of it is to inflate the heck out of money. Because as the debt level maybe stays the same, but GDP goes up and up and up because of inflation, you look like a much better country at that point. That's the reason they want to pay that debt off with these dollars.
Mm.
So when people say like, oh, they're trying to fight inflation, maybe they are for political reasons, but in actuality, it's actually a good thing for them, for the U.S. economy, from relative to debt levels, as long as we stop printing. But we're not going to stop printing anytime soon.
We've been saying this same thing for years now, Paul. And when we were all getting all the checks from the government, we could have done something with them. But a lot of people, including myself, spent them. I mean, I save, of course, but yeah,
And by the way, Seth does save good money. Like he does a good job of saving, not to the level of Tim probably, but Seth does a good job saving. So I think he's picking on himself when he says these things. But the whole point about Seth and everybody in this room is we all spend frivolously on something.
Mm-hmm.
I spend frivolously on a lot of things. I can afford to, but I do. It's all about balance. And at some point, you have to think to yourself, if a recession hit, I lost my job, how long would I be able to survive for? If the answer is not a paycheck, start today.
Start today.
That's it. Start today. I don't care how small it is. Every single week, guys, I save that way. Money just goes out of my account without me looking at it. If I can do that, you can.
You told me all this when I made far less money. And
now you make far more money.
But I then started switching and, saving. And
well, by the way, I didn't tell you save everything. I just said, listen, but as your income goes up from this channel, maybe save a majority. You're still going to live a better lifestyle, but save a majority. Because you'll never regret saving more.
It could get rocky out there. We're here to help you. Paul is always here to calm us down. Calm me down, Paul. I get to, I ride the roller coaster of emotion with all of this. So I'm still kind of new of this. And if you are too, we welcome you to watch more of our videos. Fondle thumbs up. Subscribe. We'll be here for you. See you next video.